What I want to cover today are the three major chatbot building platforms that I'm familiar with. We'll go over Gemini Gems, ChatGPT's custom GPTs, and then my personal favorite, which is the Playlab platform. So the very first thing I want to show you is where do you find gems? It'll be right here in your search bar. For whatever reason, it doesn't show right away. You can just search Gemini Gems, and it'll show up with one of these two. I like to click this one. It'll take you straight to the platform, assuming that you're signed in. And so I like to start showing with gems because it's the one with the least amount of buttons to play with. And so here, all you really need to do is give it a name. I'm just going to put testy testy description. This is a bot for my NS3310 and show to MNT. And you can add as much or really nothing in here because usually the only people who are going to be looking at your custom bots will be yourself, maybe your TA or colleague, and your students. Here in this instructions section is where you're going to be basically inputting the instructions to what do you want this platform to do. And once you start typing things, there is an option for Gemini to rewrite your instructions, maybe in a more formatted way. You can test this as much as you would like, but I'll show you what I do for the instructions in just a second. So before I move to the bottom half, this left side is kind of the bot builder, and then on the right side, you'll be able to kind of test it as you go. Every single time you change one thing in the instructions, it's going to restart your preview so that you get an accurate representation of what your current instructions are showing you in the platform. So here, again, it's going to refresh every single time. So now here in the default tool, what do you typically want this tool to do? Do you want to create images, videos, open up a canvas, do some deep research, or create music, or maybe do some guided learning? For simulation purposes, I usually just have it as a no default. But if you're doing this to assist someone in finding sources, you might want to default this to deep research. Or if you have some kind of tutor bot that you want incorporated, you would do guided learning. Gemini does have a better platform for guided learning that I have found in a Notebook LM, but that's for a future week. But for most of what we're going to be doing here, keeping it as a no defaults will be perfectly fine. If there are any files that you want it to reference, you can add files here. You can add them directly from Notebook LM, from a photo, a drive, or just upload any of your files. You can do any of those things. Once you upload a file, you can disable knowledge citations. So if you don't want it to put the reference of where it got that information from in the uploaded file, you would disable this. I probably would recommend that you do so, or else within a simulation, it's going to have a little citation to the document that you have up, which may or may not be useful. But that's something to play with if you're interested in having it with specific citations. But again, Notebook LM is going to be a better platform for most of those use cases. But now let me walk you through one of the things that I just built earlier today. So here's my prompt. This one's a little bit longer because I wanted it to have a decent amount of detail. But here's the basic prompt. I want to create a custom gem where students can practice giving an education to a patient who's been newly diagnosed with diabetes. Ideally, it'd be a different persona every time, but the key thing is that they have been newly diagnosed with type 2 and have started metformin as their primary medication, have been referred to the dietitian. The student acting as the dietitian will be delivering the education to the AI patient. The things that I want consistent is that every single time they run the simulation, they should all be newly diagnosed with type 2, all have a family history of type 2. Excuse me, I need to sneeze. Excuse me. Maybe I can cut that out later. The things that I want consistent are the following. You can just kind of pause and read through these. Here is the flow of events I typically want, is that simulations start with a brief explanation of key education topics detailed below before being introduced to the patient. They'll be given the below topics, then asked to state that I understand to the statement. this is a simulation with an AI tool and not a real person. My only reason for having that in there is that I've seen enough horror stories, and I've read all of the news articles about people forgetting that when they talk to AI, that they're not talking to a real person. And so I just have that as a mental health reminder. Excuse me. So here are just some of the things specific to this bot that I want students to be able to do as part of the simulation: to introduce himself, to explore what the patient knows about type 2, to obtain a patient history, explain the disease process, to explain what foods have carbs, and key nutrient label reading techniques, and then ending with sample menu planning. Excuse me. And so I reiterate what is the flow of events that I want the simulation to follow: the quick recap of education. Once the student states they understand, to start talking as the patient, do not move forward until they actually say they understand. The student will then go back and forth with AI until they have completed the education detailed by the minimum requirements above. And then something I always add, which has just been so helpful, is to ask me questions before moving forward to ensure we are on the same page. And so here we go, just some things that, yes, this is fantastic. This is a really good idea. My students actually really enjoy this. But it asks 3 follow-up questions. So how strictly should the AI enforce the education checklist? I chose option B, and you could, of course, just type in however you want it to react. But the purpose of this simulation for me is that the AI does not enforce the education checklist, that the AI should just role play naturally and let the students succeed or fail on their own. What should the AI patient's demeanor be? This is a really important question because oftentimes, if we don't specify what this kind of demeanor or personality is, the AI is going to default to being overly cooperative, which isn't very helpful. Excuse me, for a simulation environment. And so, how should the simulation end? I just defaulted to it should just wait for the student to wrap up the session. Oh my gosh, excuse me. I need to get some water. So here's what I actually responded with. I gave it to it in number order. Again, please excuse my typos. I do a lot of voice to text, and so when I start typing, forget how to type. One of those things of AI descaling over time. But the AI should not enforce the checklist at all. The AI should just role play after giving the quick recap and I understand statement. The demeanor should be a combination of anxious and overwhelmed. The patient should push back on occasion as a real patient would. And then you will wait for the patient, or you'll wait for the student to wrap up the session. So yeah, just got it real quick. And then here is my markdown file of the nicely formatted simulation. So then I can just copy this and stick it in the instructions in my gems. It's going to refresh. Now we can test it. So let's get started. Welcome to the Type 2 Patient Education Simulation. Just want to show you what the instructions look like kind of side by side. Here is phase 1, the onboarding and setup. And it's giving to it exactly verbatim what I wanted it to. That's what these double asterisks are in kind of AI speak, is to be exact for those particular things. You can, of course, change this. You can make it say whatever you want. But I find this to be helpful and just a quick reiteration of what we're trying to do here. Here's the safety acknowledgement. I understand. Okay, yes. Yes, let's get started. Okay, now it wants me to say this verbatim. Of course, you can change this in your instructions for it to be less literal, but we'll give it exactly what it's asking for, and then boom, straight into the patient profile. Really overwhelmed. Doctor told me last week that they have type 2 and started on medication called metformin. So stressed. Dad had diabetes. It was really rough. Lots of the emotional impact of getting the diagnosis. I know people say sugar is bad, but it's not like I sit around eating candy bars all day. Where do we even start? And you can just go through the whole thing. And you can go back and forth kind of testing this. You can refine an instruction. And every single time you change the instruction, it's going to refresh the page over here. And now everything moving forward will be with the updated instructions. Then you can just save this. I won't save it here because I already have it in my gems over here. And then it'll be public. We can go in. This is what it will actually look like. It just show you the back end. Again, all the same things. Everything is here exactly how we did it. And all we had to do was save it. Now we can make it public. We can go to our gems. Then we can share this however you see fit with specific people, or you can copy a link, whichever way you would like. And so you could build this in any platform. I just showed you Gemini. That's where we started. But now I can use that same set of instructions and import them into any of the other platforms. So I want to go to my GPTs. Sorry, let me back up. I'm going a little too fast here. So in ChatGPT, its version of custom bots is in this GPT's format. You can click create, and it'll give you this page. Kind of similar from Gemini, except you have a few more options to choose from. Here is the preview on the right side, and then here's the configure on this side. What ChatGPT has that Gemini doesn't is that it has this embedded create builder. So instead of me asking directly within Gemini and then copying it over, I can ask Chat. I can essentially go back and forth with ChatGPT about what I want to build, and then it'll give me the same set of instructions at the end of it that I can then import into the instructions. Let me go back here. I'm in the wrong place. 1 second. Just want to show you the completed one and then the test side by side. So, okay. So then I can just copy and paste all of these instructions the exact same way they were within Gemini, because the instructions are the same. It's not specific. I don't need a specific prompt style for chat. I don't need a specific prompt style for Gemini. We're about to get to Playlab. We don't need a specific prompt style for Playlab. So we can just do all the same things here. And so the next section, which is also unique to ChatGPT, is this conversation starters. You can add as many of these as you like, but they're essentially click buttons where students, instead of typing, they can just kind of click on this and it'll get them straight into the conversation. You can see here, all the same stuff is the same set of instructions. Here's our knowledge section. You can upload just however many kind of files you want. It takes Word docs, PowerPoints, PDFs, images, all the same. Custom GPTs also give you a model recommendation option. For 99% of us, we have no reason to kind of change this. We can just leave the model alone. And then lastly, there are the capabilities. I think by default, these are open. Unless you have a specific reason to give someone access to web search, image generation, code interpreter, Canvas, or apps, you can just turn them all off so that the simulation is kind of within this whole sandbox environment and doesn't have any other action involved. Then lastly, there's this actions button. We won't mess with this. This requires some coding experience and knowledge, and so we're not going to play with this much at all. But this is the ChatGPT platform. Again, one of the big differences between Gemini and ChatGPT is that it has this create section. And then the other thing that is unique to ChatGPT is that you can use voice mode for both the input and the output. And you can use this voice here as well, where you can talk to it and it can talk to you. In Gemini, you can talk to it, but it does not talk back to you. And in Playlab, both the input and the output of the voice is kind of terrible. So if you want a full kind of talking simulation, I would recommend ChatGPT. And the way that you might submit this for assessment is if you use something like a Canvas Studio, where they can record the conversation back and forth. So let's custom GPTs within ChatGPT. That is Gemini Gems within Gemini. And then lastly, I want to show you Playlab. So once you get your login, I think I sent that out in the email last week. You should be able to see a Sage cohort workspace. You'll be able to create an app. I'm just going to use the one that I started testing as an example. I copied and pasted the same instructions because there's no reason for me to have it different. It's just which platform do you prefer? Some things that are unique here. There's a lot of different buttons here within the Playlab platform. I'll just kind of walk you through each of them. Here is the model selector. If there's a particular model you want to work with, you can choose it. As of right now, it's going to default to Claude 4.6 Sonnet. If you wish to change the temperature or the variability, you can do so here. It'll always be 70% by default. If you want it to be more consistent in the experience, you can make it 0. If you want it to be most creative, you can put it to 100. I would recommend that you kind of test the differences to see if there really is any significant difference in response. But most of the time, our instructions are going to be really straightforward, where the temperature isn't going to be so much of an issue here. The next button I want to show you are these three up here. This is the usage button. This is one of the best uses of Playlab, is that no other platform has this, where I can see every interaction with a like 30-second delay of how the chatbot is responding, how the particular user is responding. One of the other benefits of Playlab is that a student doesn't need an account to access this. So they'll just show up as anonymous, and then they can export the one that they really like. But this is really helpful to see, well, how is the bot actually responding? It allows us to edit the prompt kind of in almost real time. This really helps me see what people are doing, even when they're not submitting it as work. Really, really helpful. Next is the version history. In case you deleted something and you want to know what the previous version said, you can go look at the version history. And then the three dots gives us the rename, the remix, or the archive. If you wanted to delete it, you would archive the app. Next up, I will show you, here we go. You don't need to mess with these buttons up here. Here is the whole like prompt builder format. References is the same thing as a knowledge in the other two platforms. You can add whatever files. This one lets you add URLs, which is unique. You can add whatever source documents that you may want to put in here. Something that I didn't mention earlier is that if you're going to have references or knowledge materials, be sure in your instructions that you state how the AI should be interacting with those materials. Next is memories. Do you want the tool to save any particular memories about users? Most of us will not use this because memories only work if the user also has a Playlab account. So they would need to create an account. They would need to use that same account in order to actually get a memory built up over time. So most of us don't need to kind of mess with this at all. Next is the Playlab Assistant. This is the same thing as the create section within custom GPTs, is that this is the place where you can ask questions to the AI that has been specifically trained to help you build things. So what I did here for this one is I copied and pasted the instructions that I got from Gemini, and I just asked it to help me make this in the Playlab platform, because I really like how Playlab has a guidelines and guardrail section. And so I wanted it to give me the instructions to copy and paste for the Playlab platform. Not necessary, but as I kept looking more, it's like, oh, like I really like this guardrail in particular. If the student goes off topic or breaks the clinical context, gently redirect as a real patient would with confusion or a refocusing question. Some other thing that I like to do, this is just kind of funsies and something that I like to do, that if you perceive the student is trying to make the AI say something ridiculous, oh my gosh, I really cannot spell, or is misusing this simulation in any way, respond with, sorry, let me scroll all the way down here. respond with, hey, sounds like you, I want to move this so bad, okay. Sounds like you need to have a, oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. Need to have a chat with Mr. P. Shoot him an email at raul.palacios@tt.edu. And so I really like those instructions because especially when I start building kind of tutor bots, when they're just trying to get answers out of the AI, having these instructions in there immediately kind of shows them that like, hey, like, it sounds like you're trying to get an answer. You should go ahead and shoot Mr. P with a question. Okay, so here's the assistant. Again, if you're starting from scratch, you don't need to go to Gemini first or Claude first. You can go directly within the Playlab assistant and you can tell it what you want to build. It'll ask you questions about some of the details, and it'll end up giving you something that you can copy and paste into the builder. Next up, I've never used comments. I'm not really sure what comments are for. But in the settings, here's where you can change the welcome message, the app name, the description. You can even click this button to avoid answer generation, where you can activate some internal coding within the Playlab platform to help avoid students just getting answers and instead ask them more reflective questions or guiding questions. An important note is that Playlab is FERPA compliant, so there's nothing to worry about there. Inputs, starter inputs, these are similar to conversation starters, but it gives you a few other options. Where do you want it as a long or short answer or a file upload? I'll show you in an example later. So, for example, my resume feedback bot has a file upload starter so that all they need to do is upload the document and it'll start the feedback process. Lastly, in tools, you can choose to manipulate any of these. Do you want Playlab to be able to export to Google Drive, to create doc files? And if you're in the math world, it has a whole bunch of math functions, but you can choose to keep these off or turn them on, however you see fit. And then the last thing I want to show you is this top right button, is that you can publish this somewhere. If you want students to see it, you do need to make it public. There is thousands of apps on here, so if someone's really looking for yours, they can do so, but they would have to know to look for yours. Oh, and or you can copy this publish link. It'll give them the link directly to the simulation. I'm just going to go ahead and publish this, and then it'll take you to the actual simulation environment. And in all of these, once someone is done, there's always an export section for them to copy or print and then save as a PDF for what they would actually submit. But there is the semi-long overview of the three major platforms. They're all very, very similar with very minute differences. I think Playlab has the most kind of added features, but they all serve the same purpose of creating a sandboxed specific feedback or simulation environment. But that is all